Hello and welcome to Outside Views, the channel where we dissect the ripple effects of political decisions and their consequences on international relations, economies and societies. Today we're discussing whether Britain can truly chart a course for rapprochement with the European Union, or if the shadow of Brexit has left relations so fractured that meaningful repair is unattainable. Keir Starmer's government has signalled a shift in tone, launching what many are calling a charm offensive toward Europe. They have pledged to rebuild trust and foster cooperation on shared challenges. But while the rhetoric is hopeful, the practical barriers remain formidable. And this video will examine the historical context of Brexit, the constraints imposed by current political realities, the economic disruptions that persist, and the question of whether genuine rapprochement is possible in the years ahead. Brexit, and I said that often, was not merely a political or economic event. It was a cultural and emotional rupture that redefined Britain's relationship with its closest neighbours and revealed deep divisions within British society itself. The 2016 referendum, which saw 52% of voters opt to leave the European Union, was framed around issues of sovereignty, immigration and national identity. For those advocating leave, Brexit symbolized a rejection of what they perceived as EU overreach and a reclaiming of control over Britain's laws, borders and trade. For those advocating remain, it was a devastating loss of opportunity, cooperation and shared prosperity. The result was close, but its implications were far-reaching, plunging the UK into years of political turmoil and economic uncertainty. The negotiations that followed were fraught with tensions and mistrust. The UK's formal exit from the EU in January 2020 marked the end of an era, but it also marked the beginning of a new set of challenges. The Trade and Cooperation Agreement, or TCA, was finalized in December 2020 after years of contentious debate and brinkmanship. While the TCA avoided tariffs and quotas, it introduced significant non-tariff barriers, customs checks and regulatory hurdles that have complicated trade and strained supply chains. These changes have had a profound impact on businesses and consumers, creating a new reality that both sides are still grappling with. Keir Starmer's government came to power in July 2024 with a promise to address these challenges and reset relations with the EU. Starmer's victory was seen as a rejection of the combative approach of his conservative predecessors, particularly Boris Johnson, whose tenure was marked by heated rhetoric and strained relations with Brussels. Within months of taking office, Starmer embarked on a diplomatic tour of key European capitals, visiting Berlin, Paris and Brussels to signal Britain's willingness to engage constructively with the EU. His meetings with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and EU Council President Antonio Costa were characterized by warm words and optimistic statements about the potential for closer cooperation. Von der Leyen described the UK and EU as like-minded partners and emphasized the need for collaboration in uncertain times. Starmer's government has also expressed interest in exploring areas of mutual benefit, such as defense cooperation, environmental policies and trade facilitation. However, despite the positive tone of these discussions, the tangible outcomes have been limited. The joint statements issued after Starmer's meetings have been largely symbolic, emphasizing shared priorities like support for Ukraine and global security, but offering little concrete progress on contentious issues like trade or mobility. The EU has made it clear that it has no intention of reopening the TCA, citing the difficulty and length of the original negotiations. Instead, any changes to the agreement will likely focus on its implementation rather than its substance. This limitation reflects both the EU's cautious approach and the political sensitivity of revisiting a deal that took years to finalize. The economic consequences of Brexit remain one of the most significant barriers to rapprochement. Recent research from the London School of Economics revealed that Brexit reduced UK-EU trade by £27 billion in its first 2 years, and British goods exports have fallen by approximately £30 billion since the TCA took effect, with small businesses bearing the brunt of these losses. Non-tariff barriers such as customs checks, rules of origin and regulatory alignment requirements have created new costs and delays for businesses. And these barriers have been particularly challenging for smaller enterprises, which often lack the resources to navigate complex regulations. And the disruptions extend beyond trade. The end of freedom of movement has created significant challenges for sectors that rely on skilled and unskilled workers from the EU, including healthcare, agriculture, and hospitality. Stricter immigration rules have made it more difficult for businesses to recruit the workers they need, exacerbating labor shortages and driving up costs. Educational and cultural exchanges have also suffered. The UK's decision to leave the Erasmus Plus programme marked a major loss for students and institutions on both sides of the Channel. Since Brexit, the number of European students studying in the UK has plummeted. German student numbers, for example, have fallen from 14,000 in 2019 to just over 8,000 in 2023. Increased tuition fees and visa requirements have made studying in Britain prohibitively expensive for many. Organizations like the German Academic Exchange Service and the AJA Working Group have called for measures to ease these restrictions. They have suggested visa-free travel for students and a renewed commitment to programs like Erasmus+. However, Starmer's government has shown little interest in revisiting this issue, citing concerns about immigration and sovereignty. These red lines extend to other areas of potential cooperation. Starmer has ruled out rejoining the EU single market or customs union, improbable anyway, but positions that align with pro-Brexit sentiment in the UK. Similarly, proposals for a youth mobility scheme, which would allow young people to live and work in the EU for up to 2 years, and in the UK, of course, have been rejected. And this stance has drawn criticism from European leaders who argue that such programs foster cultural and economic exchange rather than unwanted migration. The EU, for its part, has emphasized the importance of ensuring that the UK adheres to its existing commitments under the TCA. And this cautious approach reflects the lingering mistrust that remains after years of contentious negotiations. Yet the EU has shown a willingness to explore areas of mutual interest, such as scientific research and environmental cooperation. For example, the UK's potential involvement in EU research initiatives like Horizon Europe represents a promising area for collaboration. The cultural and emotional impact of Brexit continues to cast a long shadow. For many in the EU, Brexit was seen as a rejection of European values and unity. For many in Britain, it was framed as reclaiming of sovereignty and independence. And these competing narratives have made it difficult to rebuild trust, even as both sides acknowledge the need for cooperation. Ultimately, the question of whether Britain can chart a course for rapprochement with the EU is as much about politics as it's about policy. It's about reconciling competing visions of sovereignty and integration, addressing the practical consequences of Brexit, and rebuilding trust on both sides. For Starmer's government, this will require patience, pragmatism, and a willingness to engage with difficult questions. The path to rapprochement will likely involve incremental progress rather than sweeping reforms, but even small steps can represent meaningful progress in a relationship that remains vital for both sides. So thank you for watching Outside Views again, and if you have thoughts on whether the UK can mend this relationship with the EU or what steps could be taken to move forward, let me know in the comments below the video. And as always, if you found this discussion insightful, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Let's continue to explore and question the decisions shaping our world. Take care, and the next video is already right here in the end screen.